You call yourself a man? You know you're a lying, low-life, motherfucking gambling degenerate prick. You know that's what you are?
Well, hello, you degenerate fucks, and welcome to The Degenerate Gambler. It's Thursday, the 22nd of October, and we're just here with a normal Thursday episode. Looking forward to this weekend's fixtures. Just a quick note before going, obviously midweek, did a couple of bets, nothing great, but a member of the community, of one of the followers, actually contacted me on Instagram and said that I should maybe put the pictures up of the beaten bets just so that anybody following can sort of see how close it was, or, you know, whatever games may have done me out or whatever. I think that's probably a good idea. So thank you to Mike who suggested that. I've done it. I think I've done it the other night. On my Tuesday night bet. So yeah, a good idea. So I'll put all my beaten dockets on Instagram and Twitter as well. So anyway, moving on quickly to this week's picks, and I'll go through these here pretty quickly. I'll talk about them as I go. But so Man United and Chelsea over 2.5 goals is 8-13, and that's 1.62. Again, both teams scoring and conceding lots of goals. I think even historically, both the teams usually get goals against each other. It may not be always overs, but I think in previous seasons they both had better sides, to be fair. So just let me get a quick look at that. So United Chelsea, that's 5:30 on Saturday. Looking at the head-to-head, yeah. So 3-1, 2-0, 2-1, 4-0, 1 each. That's the last 5 games between them. And I mean, I know Chelsea drew with Seville 0 each, but they've scored 3 to Southampton, 4-0 to beat Palace, 3 to drew with West Brom, and United beat PSG 2-1. They beat Newcastle 4-1, lost to Tottenham 6-1, won 3-0. So again, that's I do really fancy that. Next one is somewhat of a dodgy one, because this could be 0-0 all over it, but honestly, and just before we go on and do the rest of them, I have, because of the way things are going with favourites not winning, and I know more favourites have started winning, but I think I'm going to go more with goals, over 2.5, and maybe both teams to score for my main bet. I'll maybe do more of teams to win on my smaller bet. But yeah, so most of these that I've researched today are all goal games. So the next game is Fulham and Palace that I picked. Now, they both played 5 games. Palace scored 6, conceded 8. Fulham scored 4, conceded 12. Although Fulham got their first point the other day. It's just one of those ones, even though maybe historically it hasn't scored a lot of goals, I don't know, something tells me Fulham, 2-1, I see that game either way. But anyway, moving on. So next I have Bristol City versus Swansea, and over 2.5 in that is 11-10, which is 2.1. Sorry, just on the Fulham Palace, I never gave the price there. It's 6-5, which is 2.2, and the United price was 8-13, which is 1.62. Also, just quickly on the United game, both teams are scoring that game is 1-2. Not a great price, but you know, maybe if you're going for like a big accumulator. So I say Bristol City versus Swansea, overs 11-10, which is 2.1. Again, both started well, both scored goals. So yeah, that one's a decent pick, I think. Next, Wigan versus Plymouth, and that is 9-10, which is 1.9. Again, that game, like Plymouth are sitting about 5th or 6th in the table, I think. Sorry, they're actually 9th, but they're on 11 points. scored 10, conceded 9. Wigan in the 7 games has scored 5, conceded 11. And historically, I think 2 out of the last 5 have been overs. But again, with Wigan being at home, you would maybe fancy them to at least get 1 goal, and maybe Plymouth maybe score 2. But anyway, moving on, we have Sunderland Portsmouth. Again, don't really need to see much there. Both teams scoring. The only thing I would worry about slightly is that Sunderland have only conceded 1 goal all season. But Portsmouth are a good side, so that's a decent pick as well. Next is Hull vs Peterborough. Again, over 2.5 is 10-11. Sorry, I didn't give it the Sunderland Wigan price, which is 11-10, which is 2.1. And the Hull Peterborough, it's 10-11, which is 1.91. I also like both teams to score in that game, which is 7-10, and that's 1.7. Next we have Oxford versus Swindon. Now, Swindon have been in a really bad form recently. Oxford not much better, but sometimes in games like that, I mean, looking at their hang, they're both on 6 points. Oxford have played a game less, but Swindon scored 9, conceded 13. Oxford scored 8, conceded 12. So sometimes games like that can be a 0-0. But anyway, that's 9-10, which is 1.9. Next is a team who a lot of people are surprised by, including myself, which is Cambridge. Cambridge versus Bolton. Over 2.5 goals is 12-11, which is 2.09. Now Cambridge have scored 18 goals in their 7 games, conceded 4. Bolton have only scored 6 and 7, but conceded 11. Cambridge are at home. In their last, 5 home games, they have scored 3, scored 2, didn't score, scored 3, scored 2. So, yeah, I would fancy them to maybe win 2-1 or 3-1. And they're a decent price to win as well. I mean, they're 11-10 to win, but I'm going to stick with goals this week. So that was 12-11, which is 2.09. Next is Harrogate versus Colchester. Overs in that is even money, which is 2.0. Also, a decent bet in that game, I feel, is both teams to score, which is 5-7, which is 1.71. Again, Harrogate started very, very well. Scored 11, conceded 5 in 7 games. Colchester scored 10, conceded 8. So, I mean, for the overs to be even money for teams like that are scoring, there is no history because the teams have never played each other before. So, again, but Harrogate are like a wee, they're a wee bogey team. They've caught a lot of teams off guard this year. Right, so moving on, we'll move on to the Scottish Premier League, and Dundee play St Johnstone. St Johnstone's at home, and over 2.5 in that game is 11-10, which is 2.10. Now in that game, they're both, I mean, they're not exactly high scoring teams. In 11 games, Dundee scored 8, conceded 16. St Johnstone scored 9, conceded 16. Sorry about that. I'm having a problem with my mic. So hopefully I didn't lose too much there, but I'm going to go back and do the last one again, which is where I think I lost it, which is Dundee versus Johnson. Both teams in that league Dundee have scored 8, conceded 16. St Johnstone scored 9, conceded 16. It's 11-10, which is 2.1 for overs. Both teams are scoring. The game is evens. It's another decent bet. And for some reason, I mean, I don't know. I've looked. I don't see any problems with COVID or anything. But Dundee are actually 3-1 to win the game, which is a huge price. But I don't think I would risk it. But it's still a huge price. Now, next is finally, lastly, a team to win. So it's the FA Cup early rounds, and Notts County are away to Kings Lynn, and they're even money to win. So I do fancy them. I do think they'll win. So that's it. That's maybe there's 10 or 12 there, different selections. Moving on to the nap of the week. My nap this week is United and Chelsea overs. As I said, that's 8-13, and again going for that because obviously, like I said, both seem to be scoring. 3 of the last 5 have been over, and only even the 2 that weren't over, there was 2 goals in the game. So you can't really, be bad that. In 5 games, 2 games had 2 goals, and 3 games had 3 or more goals. So that's one, and then the other one is Cambridge and Bolton, which is 12-11 over 2.5. Again, like I say, Cambridge scoring a lot of goals at home. Bolton seem to be scoring in most games, but they sort of haven't really got their act together and get winning. That bet is around 2.3-1. So if you put a tenner on, you'll get £33 back. So not bad. Could get you a free week of gambling or a free weekend. But anyway, that's me. I'll obviously have this posted maybe later today for the nap, and tomorrow or so for the rest. So we'll say when those bets come out, like them, retweet them, comment, whatever. Get back to me if you fancy anything different or whatever. So, moving on to Sunday. Wolves and Newcastle overs is 6-5, which is 2.2. I think that's a good bet. Also, both teams to scores 12-11, which is 2.09. I think that's a good bet. Arsenal and Leicester overs 5-7, which is 1.71. I think that's decent. A wee curveball here is FC Fylde are at home to Altrincham in the FA Cup. Now, Altrincham are a league above them, but they're in poor form, haven't really won this season, 2 draws only. Fylde, who got relegated last year, are doing pretty well. They're 11-10, which is 2.10. Funny enough, overs in that game is 7-10, which is 1.71. But I don't know about Fylde. I'm dodgy on that one, but I'll maybe have a look at it closer to the time. Lyon play Monaco. Overs not a great price, 4-7, which is 1.57, but usually they score goals against each other. On Sunday, Celtic are away to Aberdeen at 4-7, which is a price you'll not get Celtic at very often. It is a hard game, but I say 4-7, which is 1.57. Overs in that game, funny enough, is evens. That may be the bet, because I would expect maybe Aberdeen will score. Maybe Celtic win 2-1. 2-1, 3-1 maybe. Moving on, Villarreal are away to Cadiz. Cadiz only got promoted, and Villarreal are evens, which is 2.0. Lech Poznan, a team who I backed last week. Both teams' score was good. This week I fancy them to win at home. The Kharkovia. I don't really know how that's pronounced. That's a Polish team. But they're 7-11, which is 1.64. Fenerbahce play Trabzonspor, and overs in that is 5-7, which is 1.7. So that's Sunday. That's Sunday. So not bad. Looking into, just before I go on to my wee topic today that I said I was going to discuss, I'll have a quick look at midweek, where there is again another full fixture list of Championship, League 1, League 2 and Champions League and National League. So again, another good midweek for betting. So we'll move on quickly and then we'll wrap this up. Just talking a bit about betting terminology and as far as like language and also bets. It can be very, very can be a lot of information to take on, and you may hear me saying words here that maybe you aren't normally in your vocabulary or aren't used where you among your friends or whatever for betting. But I'm going to go through a few of them here. So I'd say fancy. You'll hear me say fancy a lot. I fancy this, I fancy that. That's just a way of saying it's a team or a selection that you like. A fancy. That's what you say. That's what it means. That selection is something that you think will happen. You hear me saying a lot of sweat, because other than winning, the best thing you can get in the bet is a good sweat. And what that basically means is that if you pick 4 or 5 selections, you get a couple of them up, and you're maybe just waiting on one. It's just waiting, and then that, basically you're sweating because you're getting anxious because you're getting close to winning. So that's a sweat. You hear me saying as well about like doing a side bet. Side bet is like a card term, or maybe not even just cards, but it's mainly in cards where you'll have the main pot and then people will bet on the side. But for me and I say my group of friends, we would call a side bet like a bet you would do for a smaller amount of money. So you'd maybe pick 10, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever, £50 bet, whatever, and then have a smaller bet on the side, maybe for bigger odds or more teams. You hear me saying about the nap of the week. The nap, again, amongst my group of friends and amongst anybody I know, that's a term that people do use about asking, what your fancies are, again using another word. So who would be the team or the selection that you think has the best chance of winning? That's what you would call a nap. Say it's a term used in horse racing and all as well. Another one that everybody's obviously going to know is favourites and outsiders. So you've got your favourites and then you've got your bigger priced outsiders. At the minute, a lot of the outsiders are winning. You'll hear people saying, and sometimes people, when they say odds, especially if they use fractional odds, they'll use the terms odds on and odds against. So I could say, a team is 2 to 1 odds against. That actually means that they're 1 to 2. But odds against. Or some people just say, this team are away from home and they're odds on. So they don't actually tell you the price, but they tell you that the team's odds on, which means that they're favourites, even though they're away from home. Another ones is obviously each way. Everybody would know what each way means. You get a quarter, sometimes a fifth of the odds. Avoid bet. Now this is one. It does pop up now and again. It pops up with goal scores a lot. So if you back a first goal score, you back several first goal scores in a sort of accumulator. A lot of bookies give you a selection where you can click void if player doesn't start. So what it means is if the player doesn't start the game, technically your bet's beaten. But if you've clicked the void if player doesn't start, it means that it just goes in as a non-runner, similar to how it happens in horse racing. There's other reasons why it would be void too, and what happens is if you've got a quad or a 5-timer or whatever, you still get all the multiples, but just with the other one being void. So all your trebles and your doubles, if you have a bigger bet, they still all count, but just with a void. And in types of bets and stuff like that, in terminology, you've got your outright bets, which if you listen to the very first episode I did, is season bets. Bets on things for to happen, who's going to win the Champions League, who's going to win the FA Cup, who's going to win this league, that league, finish top 4, etc. And then anti-post, they're also called anti-post bets. So bets put on a long time before the event starts. Then going on to, obviously you've got your accumulator. Everybody knows what an accumulator is. And then some of the more popular ones for types of bets would be things like Yankees and Lucky 15s. And so a Yankee is for £1, a Yankee would cost £11 because there's 11 bets. And again, that's in that is where void betting would sometimes come into it, because you would maybe do say 4 goal scores and a £1 Yankee, and that would cost £11. And one of the players doesn't start. So what happens there is a Yankee's made up of doubles, trebles, and singles. Those you would still get paid for all the doubles and trebles, but just with a void. And then the next one is Lucky 15, which is similar to a Yankee, except when you've got all the doubles and trebles, you also have an accumulator. As I say, it pays 4 singles and a 4-timer, so many doubles, so many trebles. So yeah, so that's just some of the terminology that you come across day and daily when you gamble. Some of it can take a while to get used to, but there's other ones like Rule 4 and all, which I'll not get into, but those are that's a bit weird, that one. But yeah, so that's basically it for today. So all I'm going to say is good luck and happy punting.
Here, get the fuck out of here. Yeah, thanks. Let me find out you fucked up. I'll leave you wherever I find you.